This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. My name is Todd DeWalt, and it's my job to help you grow your leadership skills, grow your business, and grow your income. I ask a lot of you, what do you want to hear a podcast episode about? And if you said sales and business development, then this is the episode for you. We're going to be talking about that exact topic, how you can craft your sales messages so your prospects and your clients will take action. I've got my good friend Ryan Lawson from Master Messaging on, and we're going to talk about topics including what happens when salespeople behave badly, common mistakes that you're probably making when it comes to selling. What does it mean to sell based on value? How can you determine your value? Ryan lays out a nice step-by-step process you can use to determine the value that you need to be communicating to your prospects. How every sales conversation is human to human. Sometimes we get caught up in B2B, B2C, but we're always talking to humans. And how can you win in a low bid environment? We're going to talk about all that plus a lot more. And there's also a follow-up masterclass for ACLC members. And what is the ACLC? It's the Advanced Construction Leadership Community. It's an exclusive community for owners and executives of small construction businesses where you can take your business to the next level. You can learn more about that over at constructionleadingedge.com/community. But without further ado, let's get to the interview. We've got my good friend Ryan Lawson on the podcast today from Master Messaging. He's going to talk us through, give us some real practical advice on selling, as well as give a master class for the ACLC members. So Ryan, appreciate you being on the call today. You doing all right today?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Happy to do this.
Absolutely. So we'll jump in, and we're going to talk about tell us a little bit about your background in a minute. We're going to talk about what does it mean to sell on value. How do you deal with low bid environments? But first of all, let's talk about some of the common mistakes that people in all industries make when they approach the sales process.
Yeah, that's a good one. And that shows up in a lot of the training that we do for our clients. It's actually one of the first modules we talk about when salespeople behave badly. And so for the last, 5 years of doing these workshops with our clients, we ask that question: what are the negative experiences you've had in a selling environment, people trying to sell to you? And most of the mistakes fall under three categories. The first one would be the salesperson just gives too much information, and it often becomes a feature dump, feeds and speeds and bits and bytes and how things work. When the human brain, it's looking for simplicity, it's looking for concreteness, and when we give too much information, our prospect starts to drift. And the reason for that is because we're, as salespeople or as people who are embedded in the industry, we're steeped in product and service knowledge, and it's what we do all day, every day. And so when we get our opportunity to sit in front of someone who might need our services, we talk too much. We just give way too much information. And your client or your prospect just doesn't care about all that information. So too much information would be one. Another one would be nothing unique shows up. The conversation, it sounds like every other conversation that they're having with people who do what you do. And you just become part of the white noise. You sound like all the other people. And those kind of conversations honestly end up a lot of times talking, company history, how long we've been in business, who we work with. And just know that when you go into a conversation like that, everyone's saying the same thing. And if you actually want to stand out and be recognized, you've got to communicate something unique. And then maybe the last common mistake people make when selling is it's all about you. It's all about you, your product, your service, your company. And we like to give our clients a hot tip. Your prospect does not care about you. They care about themselves. And when the conversation's all about you, they just check out. So one of the best things you can do is just make the conversation about them and what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
But yeah, those would be the three things: too much information, nothing unique, and a conversation that's all about you.
Yeah, and I can speak from personal experience. I've been in proposal meetings on the receiving end, on the delivering end, and what that shows up as is we are Ajax Construction Company. We've been in business since 1937. Our founder was Roy Ajax. He started the business in 1937 with one pickup truck and his two sons. Then his son Homer took over in 1942, and he bought a Ford F-250 truck, and now we have a fleet of Cat 295 excavators with a 29-foot, 3-inch excavation reach, and we have 14 lead qualified, certified professionals. And by that point, your prospect is checked out.
Completely.
They don't care. They're like, what? I think they're constantly asking the question. I know. Here's what I'm thinking is, why do I care? Why do I care about this? How does this affect me? And then if the answer is this doesn't affect me, then I'm going to check out and I'm going to start thinking about something else. And if you're delivering sales messages like that, then don't be surprised when the person across the table picks up their phone and starts checking their email, because they don't care. And yeah,
absolutely.
I've seen it on websites where they talk about all the equipment they have and the special equipment, listing model numbers, and clients just don't understand it. And
most of the time your prospect is silently, quietly, not out loud, asking the question to themselves, what does this mean to me?
Yeah.
What does this mean to my business? How am I going to be better off as a result of talking to this person? And if you're not answering or talking to that question, yeah, you're losing them.
So give us a little bit of background on what you do, a little bit of background, career, your history.
So I've been in small business for the better part of, 12, 13 years. And I started my own company. So I'm very comfortable and compassionate towards small business owners. I started my own company doing web design, corporate identity. Really fell in love with the sales process, and I actually told several of my clients, if all I could do was sell our services and not have to deliver them, that'd be the perfect job for me. Well, and then a few years ago, about 4.5 years ago, I connected with who is now my business partner, David Kurjan, with Master Messaging, and we've spent the last 4.5 years with him doing sales consulting, sales training. And it really is all about, the whole reason anyone would engage a sales consultant or a sales trainer is to increase revenue, is to see that bottom line or that top line margin grow. And so that's what we do for our clients, and really enjoy it.
Some people look at selling like an end, and like you said, it's about increasing revenue. That's when I talk about in the construction world, selling in a lot of cases is synonymous with estimating. And your job as an estimator / salesperson / business development person is to generate revenue, not just create estimates. So, all right, let's talk about something that you guys talk a lot about in Master Messaging. It's this concept of selling based on value. What does that even mean, and how does one go about that?
So when we're talking to our clients about selling on value, first of all, it's something that sales professionals have heard often throughout their career. Sell based on value. Don't sell based on features or capabilities of the product or service. And so, and that's because when you sell based on features and capabilities, many times you end up losing margin. And the reason you do that is because if the guy next door has the same features or the same capabilities of your product or service, if they can do what you can do, and they absolutely can, you have what we call value parity, which is everything's just, it's same. And if it's same, and the guy down the street can do what you do, the result is the customer beats you up on price. So when you're selling based on value, all that really means is, what's it worth? What's it worth to the client. And so, in a construction environment, there's a lot of people who can build the structure that you might be being contracted to build, but can they do it the way you do it? And can they do it, the unique way that you guys walk through the process? You might have learned some things about, whether it's your quotes or your timelines or, some kind of process of keeping the customer informed throughout the construction process. So what we would tell a construction professional is don't get caught up in the same conversation. To sell based on value is to find the unique parts of your product or service, how you do what you do, and communicate to your prospect on what that means or what that worth is to them. What would it mean if you could go through this construction process and not stress out about going over budget or over cost, things like that.
Two things. I want to get back to the idea of what something means, but let's talk about value. How would somebody think about determining what is valuable to a prospect? I mean, ultimately, you're going to try to sell based on value. You need to know what's important to them. How should they go about that? Should they guess at it like most people do? Should they be talking to clients? What would you recommend to figure out what's valuable to your prospects?
Sure, that's actually really important. Every successful selling conversation starts by answering this question: who am I talking to? Who am I talking to? And what goals are they trying to accomplish? What are they after? What are they challenged with? And honestly, as a professional in your field, this is what you do all day, every day. You shouldn't have to guess at that. You should know from any experience in the industry, any length of experience in the industry, the common goals, the common challenges that your prospect faces. And then how you communicate that value and how you sell based on value. Actually, it's interesting. Prior to maybe, 10, 15 years ago, it was a mystery. It was something everyone knew they needed to not just do features and benefits, but they needed to sell based on value, but they didn't really know how to do that. But in 2002, a behavioral psychologist named Daniel Kahneman, he won the Nobel Prize in economics, which is strange in and of itself. I mean, you're a behavioral psychologist and you win a Nobel Prize for economics. And the reason that happened is because Daniel Kahneman was able to prove empirically through study and through research how the human brain perceives value or worth. And he baked it down to this equation that we tell all of our clients, and it's this: contrast equals value. The human brain perceives value through a contrasting worldview. And what that means to sales professionals or anyone with a product or service to sell, the contrast is your prospect's world without you and your solution, and your prospect's world with you and your solution. So the best way to have that value-based conversation is sell based on value, is you build the entire conversation around the contrasting worldview. Here's life without us. Here's life with us. And the distance between with and without us, that is where your client, your customer, your prospect will see the worth, the value of what it is that you provide. And so those kind of things could show up in terms of timeliness, or and I'm not intimately involved in the construction world, but I have a general idea from a couple of clients that we've worked with, that things like, being on time and on budget is a big deal. And maybe everyone can't make that promise. But if you can make that promise, you're going to talk what it means to miss budget. You're going to talk about what it means to miss the timing. And then you're going to draw the contrast between the promise that you can deliver on time, on budget. And in that gap, the bigger you can make that gap, the more value your customer will perceive. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Let's talk about, let's say you're sitting across the table from they're the procurement officer, the purchasing officer for a large corporation. When you're talking about what's valuable to them, like you're saying, Mr. Purchasing Officer, this is what your world looks like with me, this is what your world looks like without me. Are you talking about the individual's needs, or are you talking about his company's needs? Where do you need to focus?
Well, this has been an ongoing debate in the sales world. Are we talking B2B, business to business buying, or B2C, business to, a consumer, a customer? In real life, and let's just break it down to real life is that every selling conversation is a conversation between two human beings. It really is human to human. And so our methodology is based on behavioral psychology. It's human behavior, the way the human brain makes decisions. And so it really is industry agnostic, and it really is role agnostic. That purchasing person that you're talking about has a set of goals. They have something they're trying to achieve, and they have this set of challenges. They have something that's standing in the way of them realizing their goals. And armed with that knowledge, you can build a sales conversation for that individual. So yes, the conversations that we help our clients build in the playbooks that we deliver are all around a persona, sometimes there's 2 or 3 different roles that you're selling into. So it might be 2 or 3 different personas, but more than likely, depending on the business you're in, you're selling to 1 or 2 of the same role, same persona. And if you can, again, from your experience in the industry and from what you know in industry publications, things like that, you can walk into that conversation with some very high-level general goals that anyone in that persona is trying to achieve and the challenges that they're facing. And that becomes the basis for a value-based conversation. So whether they're purchasing on behalf of a company or it's a homeowner buying something for themselves, everyone's got goals, everyone's got challenges.
Yeah. So, for example, having worked on both sides of the fence, if you're dealing with a homeowner, for example, their concerns would be they're scared of going over budget. Maybe they have a certain amount of financing that they already have in place. They're really concerned about having somebody working in their house. Mm-hmm. I've sat across the table from women crying because of how dusty their windows were during a construction project. So, yeah. And then on the business side, what I've learned is if you're dealing with a corporate client, their concerns are, I don't want to get in trouble. I have to follow my procurement guidelines. I'm not going to stick my neck out for you, and I don't want to look bad. Those are some of the common things. So it's different based on the persona that you're talking about, but it's very important that you understand the needs of the person and then craft your message accordingly. That's the best way to provide that value. So
Absolutely.
You talked about means, and talk about, this is one of the most impactful things that you guys talk about to me is the difference between is, does, and means.
Okay. Yeah, and it comes back to what we were just talking about. So what your product, what your service is and what it does really doesn't change that much. Since I'm talking to construction professionals, you build stuff, and that really doesn't change that much. Now, the size or the qualification or the specs of the different building or the project that you're on, that might change, but at its core, it is what it is, and you do what you do. You build stuff. But what does that mean to the persona or the individual you're talking about. And you just explained it very well between a B2B buyer and a homeowner, what would be important to them. And the way we describe that in our workshops is, so imagine a stealth fighter jet, like one of these B-2 bombers, these amazing thing of technology here. What is it, and what is it? At a root level, it's metal and it's glass and it's fiberglass and it's computers and it's all those things. That's what it is. That really doesn't change. What it does is, stealthily fly in and conduct bombing raids under the radar or without any kind of radar. So those things never change. But what does a stealth fighter jet mean to the President of the United States or a five-star general? Well, it likely means something that, it means that they have superiority on the battlefield, that they have a tactical advantage. What does it mean to the pilot? To the pilot, it might mean, some level of prestige, that he's flying one of the top jets. It might mean something about, safety, security, that he's behind enemy lines and without the ability to be seen. What does the stealth fighter jet mean to the pilot's 5-year-old boy on Christmas morning? It means dad's coming home. Dad's gonna be there. So the product, the service, it doesn't change. What it is and what it does doesn't change, but what it means depends greatly on who you're talking to. And so in every selling conversation, you've got to ask that question, because if you go in and you're pitching a CEO of a large organization on a construction project, but you're using the talk track of a purchasing manager or someone lower on the totem pole, you're really gonna miss the opportunity that you have to frame the conversation in terms of meaning and in terms of emotion and what it means to that individual.
Yeah, very, very good point. Very powerful stuff there. Let's switch gears and talk about the fact that in our industry, the bottom line is a lot of work is awarded to the low bidder. If it's public work, there's really not much of a sales process involved. So there's not a lot we can do there from crafting a sales message standpoint. Maybe there's some stuff we can do on the back end, but in private work, like you're working with a real estate developer, or maybe you're working with a homeowner, the typical mindset is we're going to go with the lowest qualified bidder. Now there's some room to move there on the qualified part, but how can somebody win when they're bidding against competition and their client is concerned about low bid? How would you approach that? How should they think about it? What are some pieces of advice you can share?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a challenge, because none of our clients want to be the low price leader. I mean, nobody except Walmart really wants that title, from our experience. But acknowledging that that's the way it is in this industry in some respects, I still think there's a couple things you can do to pull it out of the commodity world, the commodity trap of, if you're one of 5, 10, 15, 20 people bidding on a project, again, what it is and what it does, it really doesn't change that much. But who's reading that bid? Who is in charge of making that selection? What are they trying to achieve? What are they challenged with? And how can your service uniquely solve that challenge different than your competitors? And so here's what I would do, and here's what we would recommend to our clients. I'm sure in the bids, there's probably an executive summary or a cover letter or something like that, or maybe at the beginning or at the end. I would provide additional value over, here's how we're going to complete your project, here's how much it's going to cost. And the way I would do that is I would lead with an insight. I would tell this person something they don't know. And specifically, I would lead with an insight, especially around a threat or a danger. And there's a reason for that. There's a psychological reason for that. Is the human brain is 2 times more likely to run away from pain as they are to run to a solution. We're twice as apt to avoid a problem as we are to find a solution. And so what that might look like is, hey, here's your proposal, and here's the project we're bidding on. Here's how much it's going to cost. What people like you are challenged with is, and then I would cite some third-party resource, some mutually respected third-party resources that's doing research in that industry, alerting this prospect or alerting this purchasing person or whoever to a threat or danger in their world. And then I would address that danger and say, hey, what if you could, by using our company, what if you could do this differently? Well, you can, only with our company. And so somewhere in that interaction, I would look for opportunity to provide value, to lead with some insight, and then tie our product, our service, our company, our unique solution, how they're going to be able to overcome that challenge and achieve their goals. So that's what I would do. And I have no problem with putting in a low bid to get the business, but once they have the business, to then leverage that for further business and say, hey, wasn't that project, didn't that go down well? Wouldn't you like to do that again? Well, you can work with us, something like that.
Yeah, agreed. And as a side note, what a lot of construction folks don't realize is that everybody that interacts with a customer is in business development. I've seen it so many times where the business development guy gets the deal sold, gets the contract signed, and then they go away to go sell other work. And I work with project managers, project engineers, project executives, subcontractors, whoever they are, and they have zero business development mindset. And you know who I'm going to remember at the end of the project when the next project comes up? It's not the business development guy. It's the guys I've spent the last 6, 12, 18 months working with. That's who I'm going to make my decision based on. So it's important that you understand, as a construction project manager, superintendent, foreman, CEO, business owner, everybody that they are impacting your ability to develop relationships, to get future work. I just had a situation come up recently where we had a large contract out to bid, and company A came in with a very aggressive proposal. They were very qualified, and they were low. And the decision was made to go with company B, who was a little bit more expensive, but they had delivered on previous projects, and we had a great relationship. They had executed. They had dealt with some issues, solved some problems for us, and what they meant to us was that they would share in the risk. They would make problems go away, and they would be a good partner. So
that's important. Can I just say one thing about everyone who touches the client really is in business development or needs to understand. You're validating something that we do with all our clients when we deliver a sales playbook, and we go through this whole process of developing the messaging for the organization. When we go into the training, we actually encourage the clients to bring everyone in the organization who is customer facing and who interacts with customers into this training. And for the exact reason that you mentioned, is the person who sold the job, that's often not where it ends. It's often the client success people, it's the account managers, in your world, it's the foreman, it's people like that, the superintendents. Every single person in the organization who touches a client, who touches a customer, is in sales. They really, really are. So I just huge rousing amen chorus to that. That's super important.
Yeah, it's often overlooked, but got a little bit more time here. I got a couple more questions for you. You've already given some great practical strategies, how to deal with clients and prospects that you guys teach. Do you have any other strategies that you show or you share in your training seminars and in your content that you could share that might be applicable to contractors?
Absolutely. And again, this is based on behavioral psychology. I don't have the time right now to explain all of it, but what I can tell you, there's two things I would say that anyone could walk away from this podcast and immediately begin doing that would increase the perceived value of what it is you provide to your prospect. And the first one is this: it's all about your intent. If you can clarify your intent before interacting with your prospect, you're going to see some things happen. And here's what I mean by that. A lot of times when we're interacting with our prospects, with our clients, sometimes the only thing we're thinking prior to walking into the door is, the dollar signs dancing over their heads, how we're going to close the deal, how we're going to get the business. And that's important. But the best way to achieve that is to make the conversation all about your prospect. So we coach all of our clients to ask this one question right before walking into any interaction with the prospect. And it's this: how will my prospect be better off as a result of doing business with me? The individual I'm about to speak to, how is their life, how is their world, how are they going to be better off as a result of doing business with me? And if you'll just spend just a few moments contemplating that, what it's going to do, it's going to frame the entire conversation, and they're going to get the distinct feeling the conversation is all about them. So if you can clarify your intent and ask that question right before you walk in, you're going to immediately see a shift in the way that you're communicating with your prospect. The second one would be this. And this is a key of what it is we teach in our workshops and seminars, is to understand that and leverage the science of behavioral psychology, that's the breakthroughs in the last few years, is to understand that human beings, and everyone you're talking to in a selling situation is a human being, human beings make decisions based on meaning and emotion, and then they justify that decision with logic and reason. And while that may seem like an outrageous statement, it's absolutely been verified multiple times by multiple scientists here in the last 10 years that human beings make decisions based on meaning and emotion and justify their decisions with logic and reason. So what that means is, don't lead your conversation with logic. Lead with meaning, what this means to them. And then what you can do is, after you've established the meaning, you can come back and you can justify it all day long with the numbers, with the logic and the reason. But start with meaning and then back up that meaning with numbers, the facts, the figures, the customer proof testimonials, things like that. So clarify your intent and leverage the power of scientific breakthroughs in decision making by making it all about meaning.
Yeah, clarifying meaning or clarifying intent makes perfect sense. That's pretty straightforward. But do you have an example of what the second one looks like, where you're saying people make decisions based on emotion and meaning, and then they back it up with logic?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way we get to meaning is this. So what if the project goes late? What if you miss a deadline? What does that mean to the person that you're selling to? What does it mean to them personally? Does it? And you already alluded to a few things. These corporate buyers and these B2B buyers, often it is about their reputation. It's about the perception that they don't have everything together. So what does that mean? If they lose prestige, maybe that means they don't come up for promotion. Maybe that means their career track is off. So what we do, and what we'd encourage all our clients to do, is to dig deeper than if something goes wrong, and if something goes right, what does that mean? And if you'll ask that question 3 times, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? And follow that progression. You get a pretty clear understanding of what's motivating your prospect, both, again, the challenges they're facing and what they're trying to achieve. And so when we say lead with meaning, we're not going to walk into a client and say, hey, listen, we were able to help client A to, take their sales from this percentage to this percentage, client B take. Now we're going to say something like, hey, what if you could increase revenue in ways that were sustainable, replicable? What if you could shorten the sales cycle? What if you could close higher margin deals? Well, you can. That's how we helped XYZ company achieve this. And so the flow of the conversation becomes, they get to live in the meaning of those statements. Man, what if I could, complete the job exactly as contracted? What if I could? Well, they can by working with you. Is that a little bit more clarity?
Yeah, and what I'm hearing you bring up a good point is that in so many proposals, we just lead off with statements. Like I've been in a lot of project proposal meetings. Unfortunately, many of them start off with, we're Ajax Construction, blah, 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 blah. This is how many trucks we have. And it's all statement. It's one-sided. But what I'm hearing you say is, and tell me what you think about this statement, that you submit a proposal, you get an opportunity to come in and present. Maybe you're better off asking questions, saying, you have a proposal, and you can read through that. We don't need to regurgitate it to you, but let's talk about what does it mean to you for this project to go successfully, and then maybe drill down in that and ask those questions. Well, why is that important? Why is that important? Why is that?
Well, here's one thing I would do to alter what you just said. You're the professional. You're the expert in your area. So I wouldn't, and multiple studies have shown this, that many executives, they're tired of playing 20 questions. And because people have learned about consultative selling and you go in, you ask a bunch of questions, well, you could be one of 5 or 6 people that day asking the same questions over and over and over. One way for you to stand out uniquely as the leader in your industry is to lead with insight. So instead of walking and saying, hey, I wonder what this and I wonder what that, you just begin telling them. And again, not pointing the finger right at them and saying, you have this issue, you have this problem, you have these goals. So, and we're going to get into this in some length in the master class here. But basically, you walk in the door and you lead with, in our conversations with other people in your position, this is what they're trying to achieve. But they're challenged with X, Y, Z. And what that means is X, Y, Z. So what if you could? And then you begin to walk them through and paint the picture and show them the contrast of their world without you and their world with you. So what I would say, that one thing I would alter that, I wouldn't lead with a question. I would actually lead with insight. And what it shows the prospect is, I understand your world. I get you. I know what you're trying to achieve, and I know what you're challenged with. And guess what? I can help. We've been doing this a long time.
Gotcha. No, that's great. That is great. And I agree that if you're listening to this and you want to stand out when you propose a project, whether it's a bathroom remodel or a $50 million office building, walk into your client and say, I get it. A lot of the people we work with, they're concerned about this. People who are getting their bathrooms remodeled, you're concerned about, where are my kids going to get ready in the morning? What's it going to look like at the end of the day? How long is it going to take? Address those things and then say, here's how we're going to deal with that. If you're dealing with the CEO of a $50 million project, then you fashion your conversation around that. That's great advice. And that is something that I have rarely heard in my experience, either on the delivering side or on the receiving side of proposals. So that's great stuff there. I would encourage everybody to use that as quickly as possible. Couple more things before we get into the master class. Do you have any success stories of folks you've worked with in the past, maybe how they've used this used the strategies and techniques that you guys teach, and maybe what some of the results have been?
Yeah, absolutely. We get a lot of anecdotal stuff from sales leaders that we work with, and from CEOs that we work with. And not everyone that we've worked, the 60 plus clients we've worked with in the last 5 years, keeps great records, but the ones that do prove the effectiveness of what we do for them and how we help them. But there's an Atlanta tech company here, a large software company. They brought us in, and because they had a problem, and the problem was they were having lots of first conversations with their prospects, but their conversion rate on that first call was low. It was actually really low, 8%. And they said, this is an issue because we're queuing up all these opportunities. We're not able to sell and move them past the first stage of the sales process. So they brought us in. We did a discovery on what's working, what's not working. We applied our IP. We created a playbook for them. It's something we call a first call playbook. And we were then able to train and certify their reps who were working the phone to deliver the content of the playbook. And in 1 quarter, their conversion rate went from 8 to 47% in 1 quarter. And the SVP of sales there attributed that exclusively to the work we were able to do with them. So what that meant, though, is, an 8 to 47% bump in 1 quarter meant their revenue numbers just skyrocketed. They had an absolutely fantastic quarter. And that's continued with them as we've been engaged with them. So, but a lot of our clients see results like that.
Good stuff. And I know, and just full disclosure for you guys listening, I've known Ryan for 8 or 9 years. I've sat through some master messaging training seminars. Frankly, it has changed. What I've learned from the master messaging content has changed the way I present, how I communicate, how I negotiate with people, how I interact with my kids and my wife. It's just not only does it affect selling, and we could talk for a long time about the other parts of being being a professional, whether it's leadership, motivation, inspiration, etc., just interacting with people and influencing people. But the techniques and the strategies and the mindset change that I've learned from master messaging has had a far-reaching impact in my life. So for you guys listening, I wouldn't bring Ryan on the podcast if I wasn't confident that it worked, if I didn't have experience. And I'm telling you, this stuff will change the way you lead and change the way you sell, and lots of other things. So, Ryan, before we get into the masterclass, where can people get in touch with you guys? And if you've got resources available, I know you've got a website. If there's places on social media they can interact with you, where's the best place for folks to go if they want to learn more about what you guys are up to and get in touch with you?
Best thing they could do is just go to our website, Master Messaging, one word, mastermessaging.com. And, for your listeners, and then for others, we have a white paper that we've developed on this whole idea of selling based on value. And it's a pretty quick read. You're going to be able to ingest it quickly and walk away from reading that white paper on value, how to alter and affect your selling conversations that you're having with your prospects. So just go to the website, mastermessaging.com, and click on the button, download the white paper. And you can also, if people want to go deeper, we have an online course, and it's the core teachings that we offer to our clients. Although our enterprise clients, we do custom engagements, there's an online course available. And if they'll just click on the online course button, they can get all the information on that as well. mastermessaging.com.
Excellent. Appreciate that. And I would encourage you guys to go check that out. Download that white paper. Read some blog posts on mastermessaging.com. And if you're listening to this podcast on your phone or whatever, I'll have a link at the end of the podcast where you can go to my website, and I'll have a link to Master Messaging's site as well. So, Ryan, I appreciate you doing this, and this has been some great information. And again, I would encourage everybody listening to go check it out and get to work. We in our industry especially, we've got a lot of room to improve when it comes to selling and communicating, and this podcast has been tremendous. So with that, I appreciate it, Ryan.
Thanks so much.
We're going to jump into a master class for the ACLC members, and we're going to get into developing sales conversation. If you're interested in joining the ACLC, if you're a business owner, a construction business owner, and you want to take your business to the next level, you want to get access to this master class as well as lots of other content, go to constructionleadingedge.com/community, and you'll find out more details there. So with that, appreciate it, Ryan. And,
thanks a bunch.
We'll jump into this masterclass. All right, be sure to go to constructionleadingedge.com/061 for the notes. Head over to mastermessaging.com so you can download the resource that Ryan mentioned, and reach out to Ryan. He's serious about it when he says they're not too busy to pick up the phone, not too busy to email. They want to help. They're great guys, and they will definitely help you. So if you want to access the masterclass where we go to the next level with this conversation and walk through a process of how you can develop your sales conversation that you can use with all your prospects, you need to go join the ACLC, the Advanced Construction Leadership Community. You can find out more about that over at constructionleadingedge.com/community, or just go to my homepage, click on the button that says Take Your Construction Business to the Next Level. Thanks for listening. My name is Todd DeWalt, and I will catch you next time.